Hello, twins. WDF here with your mission message of the day, evening, morning, noontime, whenever you receive it. I want to caution that while I don't have a big plan in mind for this channeled message, that I am aware that some of it may be triggering. Though there also seems to be some energy within the collective, some desire for triggering upward, for lack of a better way to put it. To have a flashlight or a candle or a torchlight held into the corners where the cobwebs are. And some of those cobwebs can be those big, huge nests of funnel spiders, like wolf spiders and things like that. And some of them are just little ones, like the orb weavers make. So all of them are worthy of being looked at and cleaned out from time to time. Now, the particular message that's been coming through to me all day, and is like, no, you're going to speak this message, is there's a phrase, and I shortened it a little bit in the title because I only have so many characters I can use. I kind of like it, stay better, or stay bitter, or get better. Although I like the first one, stay better, but stay bitter or get better, and it comes from the phrase you can either get bitter or you can get better, and it really there are so many of you that I love to talk to, and I really wish more of you would comment more regularly. That you're learning the light work, you're alchemizing the darkness and things like that, and because there are so, especially right now with the energies, there are so many more voices of feminines out there in karmic energy. Because remember, we are all of them. We are all things. We are divine masculine. We are divine feminine, and we are karmic. We are all going through all things. Like, how do you think that a divine feminine could channel karmics, or that karmics could channel DMs and DFs? Because we all have all energies within us. And oftentimes, the twin flame journey includes you and your twin triggering each other. And, like, there are different kinds of triggers. There's karmic triggering, there's light triggering, there's triggering we don't even know about. But either way, if you're in a place where you're feeling very triggered, or you're trying to trigger your twin, you're in karmic energy, regardless of whatever main role you feel like you are in the rest of the time. Because it's the energy that is karmic. Just like masculine energy is not a gender energy, it's an energy of action and stability and purposefulness. And feminine energy is not attached to a gender, it is about receptivity and intuition and allowing and nurturing and things like that. Well, karmic energy is about karma. It's about learning lessons, it's about enlightenment. It's about positive and negative tower moments. It's about, it's not a gender energy. It's not an assignment to one particular person. We all go through all pieces, and all pieces are valuable and important. And none of them should be held in the hero, villain, victim role, because none of them are. They're not in that paradigm anymore. But here's the thing, like, there are so many feminines of all energies coming into what I call the funhouse mirrors, like in this distorted feminine energy, and masculines and distorted masculine energy, sitting around telling the story of how we got hurt, of how we got pulled down, of how we did not get helped, of how we did not get chosen, of how we did not get the big win, things like that. And it's funny because I was thinking about it earlier. I almost did this earlier in the day as a face to face one. And I was thinking about it, I was mulling it over, marinating in it, going, is this my masculine energy right now that's wanting to speak? Or is it more feminine energy? Or is it in the middle? Is it my karmic energy? And I'm going, you know what I feel like is I feel like there's this integration of all of those energies. It's not one particular thing. And it feels like a collective energy of kind of this, like, I keep saying a lot of military things too. It's like, let's quit whining and actually get shit done. Like, that's the kind of energy that feels like it's starting to move towards, like, enough talk, let's action, let's have more action. And when it comes to like times that I'll be a commenter in somebody's live or on just a comment on somebody's video or people interacting even in my um, in my channeled messages and stuff and people talking about, oh, my DM or my DF did this and they fucked up and I'm never gonna, no, I'm just done with them, I'm totally fucking done. Well, first of all, honey, I gotta tell you, no, you're not. Because if you're in an energy of resistance and resentment, no, you're not. You're not done by a long fucking shot. And if that triggers you, good. Think about it. Because there are plenty of times that we get into a space, like there's a difference between feeling inner peace and feeling kind of an apathy towards like, no, I'm in acceptance with what the situation is and I love them and I'm the journey is on a parallel road right now and I'm enjoying the journey versus fuck them and their shit. Like I'm not going to do it. They're so immature. Like, you know what you sound like? You know what you sound like when that comes in? Like it sounds like a reflection. Like and I've been there too. Like I've been in that place too to where I've been the one talking about how I got so victimized and I didn't get understood. And then you know what I did? I went through and I looked at all my own conversations, not just with my DM, with other people. And I went, you know what? Wow. Look at the story that I am telling, that I am manifesting about my own situation. I'm being a bully. I'm being jaded. I come across like the most bitter person ever. And like it comes across that way whether I'm telling the story about my DM or about my parents or about my friend life or my prior dating life. Like it gets really addictive. It becomes an addiction to talk about our stories like that. And we get bitter and then we keep repeating those stories and the more that we repeat those stories the more they ripple out into the world and we pull in more situations like that around us or we push away everything around us until we're completely in the space to where we don't have any sort of connection around us but we're still telling the same story, we're still going through that same shit. And when we continue to do that, we just create more of it and we reflect everything that we say that we're upset that other people are doing. Like, if we can't see the light in other people, how are they going to see the light in themselves? And likewise, if we can't see the light in ourselves enough to say, you know what? I'm going to go to a place of acceptance with this rather than to a place of resentment, then we're contributing to it. Like there are so many, like I go to look at almost anybody, any reader's feed. It can be somebody who's popular, who's not popular in twin flame readings, a lot of times even in just zodiac readings, and you will often see far more negative comments than you will see people who feel like, oh yes, I've been really uplifted by this. And that could be a reading that's like very sweet and talking about good things happening, good progress happening. I love like Lotus Goddess. Go and listen to her. Yeah, sometimes she'll talk about stuff that's going on with the karmics, but typically she's talking about upward momentum and good progress, and you'll still see a lot more people going in and commenting on, like, saying, oh, well, this is horrible and they didn't do that. They didn't do what I wanted, or they're taking too long, or they're going on to this and that. Yeah, we're getting into these big sob stories. We're getting into the hero, villain, victim role. And the hard part is, it's like, it's not that it's not true. The problem is that true or not, it's not helping us to stay in those stories. And it's not going to help, like, if we're looking at somebody across from us and we believe that they are our true love, but then we simultaneously believe that they're fucked up and broken or that they're never going to be able to turn anything around, we're looking at a reflection of ourselves. That's everything that the twin flame journey looks at, is like everybody else may not like mirror you one to one. And even your twin isn't always going to mirror you one to one, but typically they are. If they're treating you like shit, usually the first place to look is inside because you're treating yourself like shit. And the minute that you start to treat yourself better and treat yourself with respect, usually they're one of the first people to do it. It may not be in the way that you imagine it. It may not be in the way that you grew up believing that somebody would show those signs. But when you look at it and you look for it, it is there. It's the same thing with anyone else around you. Like I said, they may not do one-to-one interactions, but let's say we're talking about going to get jobs. If you're telling yourself a story in your head that you fucked up at so many jobs, or you got fired, or you don't have the skills, or things like that, that energy is going to radiate off of you when you go into job interviews. Like, they're not going to consciously know it, but they're just going to be like, I don't know. I don't know how, if I want to hire this person, or I don't know if I want to rent to this person. I don't know if I want to invite this person out to hang out, to do these things. I don't know if I want to engage with this person, you know? And the hardest part of all of that is like, yeah, a lot of us have stories where we've been through really, really incredibly shitty stuff. But that's why the message is you can get bitter or you can get better. And getting better doesn't mean getting better at armoring yourself up so that nobody can ever get into you, or so nobody thinks that you're ever vulnerable, or so that nobody can ever get close enough to love you again, or, all the reasons that we tend to create walls so that we don't get there. Sometimes it's a part of the process to getting there, but at some point in time, you got to look at what are you doing? What are you telling yourself? Why are you telling yourself that? Like, yeah, sure, it's true. And for a minute, vindication can feel like it is coming to you by saying this is true, this is a reality, this happened to me. But then when you've gotten to that point, it's time to let it go down the river. It's time to put it in the river and let it float away, because holding on to that story past the, I know that this really happened to me part, then puts you into a victim space where you're no longer in the space of just saying, yeah, that happened to me, that was unfair, it didn't help me much, but what can I do with this situation? And this is something that, in terms of getting into your light work, you're going to have to look at a lot. Like, you know, nobody has written the book yet on what light work is exactly, but collectively, it appears to be helping people find their own light through finding our own lights. It's not this thing where you go out and like wave magic wands at people and suddenly they do what you believe is the right thing for them to do, or they're just bam healed. No, there's a lot of times that you might be working with somebody who is in a really, really low place, and you have to simultaneously hold love for them. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. This could be somebody you end up running into at work, for all you know. But you will know when spirit tells you, like, hey, you're supposed to work with this person. You'll get the signs and the things, very similarly to what you notice that you get with your DM and stuff like that. And you're going to have to be able to communicate with their 5D self, which might be very out of alignment with their 3D self. And you're going to have to be able to look at them. Now, if they've got a really big sob story and you have a really big sob story, guess what y'all are going to manifest? You think it's going to be light work? Probably not. Probably not. At least not right in that moment. It's not about like lack of want to. It's not about lack of love in there. It's about what are you speaking to yourself? What are they speaking to themselves? You know? And if your story is one where you've been screwed over a whole bunch, or you didn't get picked, or you're sitting around waiting for something that makes you feel like everybody else thinks that you're crazy, all these different things, you're not in a space where you can really help uplift somebody else, because you have to be able to see where they've been, where they may have been victimized, but also not see them as a victim, to see them as whole, as unbroken, as unlimited. Because if you can't see them in that space and you can't hold that space for them, you can't, like, that's most of what light work is. That's what spirit uses our twin flames to be able to show us. Like, if we cannot see the light in other people, we are also not seeing the light in ourselves. And when we're not seeing the light in ourselves, or we're not seeing the light in other people, guess what? We're casting more shadows, you know? You're not supposed to go out and be superhuman. You're not supposed to, like, it's not this big thing where you go and rescue damsels in distress. And it's not where you go out and be a damsel in distress. And a lot of us get stuck in that kind of syndrome, and it's understandable. Look at the generations that we've been through. Look at the movies that have been most popular, like, and I I love fantasy, and I love imagination and magical things, and I'm very pagan. I do genuinely believe in magic, though there is such a thing as in psychology as called magical thinking. And I think the twin flame journey really pushes us to discern the line. What's the line between magical thinking in terms of like delusions versus like, we're actually seeing real genuine stuff that is happening, that's a verifiable experience for us, hopefully with others, but that is a difference. And one of the main things that you look for is is the story that you tell yourself, is it helping you? Is it helping you? If the story that you're telling yourself is helping you, then who gives a fuck if it's magical thinking or not? It's good for you. But if it's not helping you, if it's not motivating you, if it's making you feel like either you're a shitty person or that you're not a shitty person, but for some reason everybody's just treating you shitty, or the one person that you want to treat you good is treating you shitty, that tells the universe that you believe that that is true because you're thinking it and you're speaking it and you're passing it on to other people who then think about it and possibly think and speak about it. And then that co-manifests it. It goes out. It's like a game of telephone in terms of manifestation. And if you're in a place of resentment and bitterness, and you know what? I'm not. I'm going to reel it back for just a minute here. So let's say, because I know my own story and I know a lot of everybody's stories. That's why I put trigger warning on this one. There are plenty of people who have either been entangled with people that were effectively karmics that they thought were their DMs who did really damnable shit, or it was their DMs and they did really damnable shit. And a lot of us also come from stories where before that there was a lot of damnable shit, right? Now, you can either focus on how fucked up that all was, or you can say, you know what? I've been given a unique opportunity because I can see that I can choose unconditional love for myself and for the rest of humanity and have healthy boundaries and be able to move through, walk through life, moving through these energies, not being stuck in them the way that people have been for a long time because I'm going to get better. And better is not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money and I'm going to big house and big cars and I'm going to show everybody off. No, better is healed. Better is I feel an acceptance with what life has brought to me because it brings a lot of unique perspectives and experiences, and it's made me this much stronger because look at where I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 60 years ago. I don't know what your particular story is, but if you look at your story, you can rectify that story and remove yourself from the victim hero villain paradigm by recognizing that all of it has been happening for you. And you know what? You can sit and argue semantics all day about if somebody hurt you intentionally, how was that for you? Or you can decide, you know what? I decide that I want it to be for me, in that it was to help empower me so that I can talk to others who are going through similar experiences. Because if we all sit around being bitter about the shit that's happened to us, where do we get? We don't get anywhere. We get more bitterness. We get more of the same. That's the way that the universe works, whether in or out of the twin flame journey. That's like, you can see it over and over and over again in all sorts of things. That what you put out is what you get back. And in terms of the twin flame journey and this mission, it's to recognize that one, there, nobody ever said that it was going to be like easy, especially not at first. Nobody ever said that this twin flame was going to at some point just like stop being who they've always been and like come to you as this like perfect new being who would be totally changed and never do anything wrong. No, in fact, what most people tell you is that if this is your twin flame, you're probably going to trigger the shit out of each other for quite some time. And even when union comes about, that's not necessarily going to stop. It's a part of the dynamic. You can get bitter about it and say, okay, well, why can't I get everybody to just do what I want and be consistent and everybody be peaceful and loving all the time? Or you can say, you know what a unique opportunity for me to become a person of peace and of mind and heart, and to be able to move through these energies and not feel trapped by status symbols, by relationship status, by Facebook status, by work status, by this stuff, that I can move in between all these options and timelines, and I can enjoy the juiciness of each one and know that, having faith in the people around me certainly feels a lot fucking better than looking around and observing what they're doing really bad at, or what they're not doing, what they're doing that I don't like, or things like that. Especially because, like, 99.999% of the time when people are doing things that trigger us, it's usually not personal. It's usually not because of something, like, it's a thing within them, and they're seeing something reflected from us in them. Like, there's been a couple of times that I've been really, I don't know, I want to say privileged to be able to have experiences with different people, DM included, to where I'm like, wow, I really like the way that you reflect me back to me. And if you think about that, that's usually what people are doing when they're interacting with you. They're reflecting you back to you, and you're reflecting them back to them. So think about it. Like, if you're in a situation where you feel really resentful or bitter of something that's going on with your twin flame, think about it. They're reflecting you back to you, and you are reflecting them back to them. So if they're being, you know, jackasses, you're reflecting them back to them. You're being a jackass too. Which is, I'm not saying it's unrighteous. I'm just saying, if they're being a jackass and you're reflecting back to them that jackass behavior, then you're just going to manifest more jackass behavior. And likewise, if they're coming to you, and it depends on how long you've been in this cycle of jackassery, but, like, if they're coming to you and they're being that way, they are reflecting you back to you. Are you being a jerk to yourself? Are you being a jerk to somebody else around you? There's some sort of way that they are reflecting you. And it's not, no, it's not always one to one, but it's pretty tight when it comes to your twin flame. And I mean, if we sat down and did the story of you guys, I could probably point it out to you every step of the way. But the real question is, would you take that as a step towards empowerment, where you can go, oh, yeah, okay, I can see this. I can see where I've reflected it. I'm not going to beat up on myself too much. I'm not going to take it to a crappy self-worth place. I'm going to say, okay, yeah, all right. So yeah, it's valid that I was all that, that I retaliated, or it's valid that I got upset, or it's valid that this and that. But I also know that for me, who do I want to be in each next interaction? Do I want to be somebody that's really, really good at retaliating and clapping back and being able to shut that shit down? Or do I want to be somebody that takes a radically different approach? Do I want to be somebody that says, it's really interesting that those are the thoughts that you're thinking right now. And, say if somebody's saying that you're being unfair, or that somebody's telling you all about their sob story about things that are going on in their life, and you know that they could totally turn it around if they stop telling their sob story. Well, guess what? Stop and look at the reflection. Are you doing the same thing? Because that comes out the same way on the other side. And it also just when we get bitter, we keep telling the story that makes us feel bitter. It's kind of like, if you, well, I was going to say if you drink vinegar, but a lot of people drink kombucha these days, so I don't know that vinegar would be a great example. But let's say that you just had a really super, super sour, bitter drink, and you didn't even like the taste of it. Actually, I know a few people do that with gin and tonic. Like they don't like the taste of it, but they feel like it's an acquired taste that cool people drink, so they keep drinking it, right? And it's like, if you wait a minute, no, if you don't, if you're somebody saying it's an acquired taste, what it means is it tastes like shit, and that you're getting yourself used to it. It's like coffee, like people that I don't know anybody that drinks black coffee and goes, yeah, I love it. They go, no, it's an acquired taste. Like, so that means they got used to the taste of it, but it's still really bitter, and it's still not really all that great for you. And I'm a coffee drinker, so I'm not saying that without realizing what I'm saying. But why do you keep drinking a bitter drink that you don't like? Why call it an acquired taste? Like, that doesn't even suggest that you're happy about it. Like, it's the same thing when it comes to our twin flame journey, or anybody that we're working with. Like, Stop drinking a better drink and stop pouring yourself a better drink. Pour yourself something sweeter. Have some milk and honey, have some tea, have some water, have some juice. Put things in front of you that make you feel good. Stop observing the things that don't feel great. And I say that with the full awareness. It's not always that easy, but at the same time, it's never going to get any easier if you continue to retell the parts of your story that are bitter. It's just going to continue to re-manifest that stuff. And getting better does not necessarily mean like there's no competition. It's about what feels better. Does it feel better to continue on the way that you have been going? If not, then why not get better? Why not reach towards the light? And I guarantee you almost every ben there's never going to be a moment when you're going to resent choosing self-love or being unconditionally loving and understanding of people around you. Yes, there may be moments that you resent not having good boundaries because you have unconditional love for everybody, but that's a separate thing. Because a lot of times we confuse having healthy boundaries with people with being angry at people. And there's a difference in there. There is kind of a Venn diagram sort of thing in there. They mix a lot, but they're not the same thing. And when we have healthy boundaries with ourselves, that's where it starts. In having healthy boundaries with other people, and that includes having boundaries with ourselves about, what, I'm not going to keep telling the same bitter story over and over again. Yes, there's moments when we need to process it out loud. We need to tell people our stories, and they're good. It's not that the telling of the story is bad. It's not that it makes anybody bad. It simply doesn't make you happy. Like, if the story you're telling doesn't make you happy, you're not going to manifest a happy story. If the story that you're telling is that things have not been going well and they're not getting better and you don't believe in it, or and you're just done and you don't want to go there anymore, or you're gonna go be with somebody else, or things like that, you're just gonna keep manifesting more of that cycle. So it's not a right or wrong thing. It's a, what do you want? That's basically what the universe is always asking. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? It's like, what is it, the genie from Aladdin? Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need, right? But it's not asking what do you need. It's asking what do you want? And what you talk about, what you think about most often is the answer to the question for spirit. What do you want? Well, if you're talking about how jaded you feel about the different ways that you've been treated, and the ways that things have not worked out in your favor, you're telling the universe you want more of that, and that's going to make you more resentful, which is going to make you more bitter, and it's not going to help you feel better. And I think that's part of why the twin flame journey really got taken up a notch in the last couple of years, because a lot of people have been sitting in bitter energy, and they've been putting out waffly vibrations where they feel on one hand very upset about the way life has been, and feel very victimized, feel like they're trying to be the hero but they got villainized, which actually makes them the victim, and every single person is telling themselves the same story. But the twin flame journey, I've had a lot of people that, like, well, I'll talk with them and they feel like it's supposed to be kind of this like romantic love story thing where like you just hold on and things get better and it's happily ever after. No, like, nowhere has that ever been told. It's self-love. It's learning unconditional love. It's learning to create ripples in the universe that go out and help to heal the rest of the universe without having to effort a whole bunch, without having to be some high powered CEO who has the money to play in the 3D economic game and do shit that way. No, it's the little ripples. It's the light work that you do when you feel better about your story, when you can look back at every way that anybody's ever hurt you or held you back or thrown lemons or bricks at you or taken something from you or not chosen you, and say, you know what, though? Those are some of the most beautiful parts of my story. Those are some of the most beautiful parts of the story of us, if you're thinking of you and your twin flame. Those are some of the most important parts of the story because they led me to now, where I can look at my story and I don't need to use it as a way to get people to like me. I don't need to use it as a way to sell books and CDs and things like that by showing what all I overcame. I mean, not that that's bad to do, just simply I don't need to. Because when you get better, you get to a healed place to where your story is no longer this like train of emotional baggage behind you that you have to carry with you. That's for me why I call it light work, because it makes you feel lighter. And when you don't carry around so much baggage with you, so many things in your body, so many things in your life around you, with family, with friends, with your twin flame, all of that, it gets lighter because it is not so encumbered by all of the weight of that emotional baggage. And I can pretty much guarantee you too that if you're telling a story about your life, especially with your twin flame, where, it's a constant entanglement of pain back and forth, or you being all hero, or them being all villain, or whatever thing's going on, that there are deeper things underneath that you are using your twin flame journey to hide from. Because it's a lot easier to stop and look at what your DM or your DF is not doing right than to stop and look at what you're not doing right, and to look at what you're not doing right from a place of unconditional love for yourself, especially if you've been told a lot throughout your life that you're not doing things right. And that's the thing to heal. That's the thing to heal. That is the thing to heal, is to be able to look at yourself and go, okay, all right, I'm not doing this thing right. I'm letting, I was just, I just made a post on one of my social media things talking about like little stuff. Like I think it's amusing that so many of us are scared for so long to talk about the things we don't do right, and to talk about improving on them, to talk about them. Like, I've been really shitty with laundry for a long time. I actually don't mind laundry. I like it in terms of a chore. And my old story was, well, but there's so many people, and I'm forgetful, and my ADHD, and like, my DM did it a lot when we were together, and there was different prompts, or we had more room. Like, I was telling a story about how hard it was to get it done. And I started to look at myself in those moments, especially when I really started to choose solitude. Not isolation, just solitude. Not to have somebody I had to caretake all the time, not to have somebody that needed to caretake me all the time. Just sitting and looking at what am I not getting done that I want to get done, and that is good for me, that I can get done, and improving on my ability to get through different things. I mean, I got kids too, so like, laundry can get really behind really quickly. And with ADHD, yes, there can be complications, but it doesn't have to end that way. The story does not have to stay that way. And I was happy to say, like, I've been working on this for some time, and a lot of it was mostly just in my head. But once I got that part down and I started getting it down, then it was like, yay, look at me. Like, this is awesome. I'm able to do things that some people don't give a crap about. I'm able to do something that makes me feel good about me, that I can do it throughout my day without taking a lot away from my schedule, and I can remember it without a bunch of alarms and things like that. Well, guess where I got the motivation to work on that from? From my DM. Because one of my biggest problems throughout our union was that I was putting so much time and attention into thinking about his healing and his needs, and trying to get our family going here and there, that I was not actually working on any of the shit that I needed to work on. And a lot of my stuff may be simple, little, like, mundane things. But who says that they're not important? And the better thing about it is, I went into each one of the things, like when the mission of separation started. I started looking at the things that he talked about, and before I would dismiss them because I'm like, how dare you have a right to talk about what I'm doing wrong, when look at what you're doing wrong. Look at who, you're doing third party situations, and you're doing this and that, and you're not helping with money, you're not doing that. And I would justify not working on my shit. And yeah, I was working on a lot of different things at the time, but I was also allowing a lot of things to fall behind too, just like he was. But it was on different sides of the ship. And when each side of the ship is both justifying why it should be okay that they shouldn't have to do their side of the work because the other side isn't doing their thing, or they're not being fair, this and that, guess what happens? The ship falls apart. It doesn't matter who started it or whose fault it was or who didn't start turning it around. The ship falls apart before you have a chance to really give a crap about whose blame it is. And the ship stays apart so long as you continue to focus on it that way. But I've been sitting back and, for the, last couple of years looking at, okay, I may not put as much, or I didn't in the past put as much importance in like, okay, the clothes all need to be done in a certain time and they need to be folded so they don't have a bunch of wrinkles and they should be put away. Because to me, it was like a waste of time. And I would much rather be putting, planting seeds in the garden so that we can grow vegetables to be able to have that food for the colder months so that we can save money on other things. Like that's where my mind went. It's not even that it's wrong, but it's very simply like, okay, how can I ask him to deprioritize stuff that he feels like is much more important than and focus on shit that I want if I'm not willing to give that same energy to things that he would like. And I really had a choice because especially as separation came in, I mean the space that he was in maturity wise and disconnect from 5D self and things like that, for him it was an ending. And not that that stopped him from holding on, just as almost harder than I have been, but it's still like it was an ending, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I was still in the height of most of my anxious anxiety, so everything was a panic to me. But I stopped, and I got lots of messages from spirit that's like, no, this is time for you to work on you. You sent him to go work on himself. This is time for you to work on you. And I started thinking about it like there are plenty of things that I do have that I can work on that will make me feel good about me. And the funny thing is, working on the laundry, I can see why he liked it. It was one of his favorite things to do, was doing the laundry. I can see why. It's very meditative. It makes you feel good, especially when you know that you can go pull out a clean shirt and you know right where it is. Yeah, it's worth the extra hour or two to make sure you're keeping track of the washer and dryer. It's worth finding things to do in the middle. It's worth stopping the dryer right when it's ready and pulling them out hot. It's worth using a good smelling dryer lint. Like there are little things about it. And this is something that I also feel blessed to have kind of picked up from some ceremonies that I've been a part of, where they teach you that you're supposed to walk through life as a ceremony. And it's like, think about the things that you're doing and the energy that you're doing them in. Are you doing your laundry in a headspace of like, ugh, this is horrible and this is a chore and I don't like doing it, and if I had the money I'd pay someone else to do it? Or do you do it like, you know what, I like these clothes, I'm happy that I have these clothes, thank you clothes for when you go on my body and you hug it just right and I feel good and I like what people have to say to me when they see me wearing this? Like, do like, seriously, think about the little things. If was it Tony Robbins used to say it about money? If you're not willing to take $100 out of 1,000, you're not going to take 10 cents out of a dollar. Like, yeah, they do seem like different amounts. They are different amounts, but the energy is the same. And like, if you're not willing to look at the mundane stuff that you can do, the dishes, the laundry, the way that you look at the clerk at the store where you go to buy your beverages on your way to work, like whatever thing it is, if you're not willing to have sort of a reverence and an appreciation and a gratitude for the little things that you can do in your life, that you can experience, that you can improve upon, that you can work on, then you're not in a place where you're going to be able to hold the space of self love for yourself and a space of unconditional love for yourself, that you can hold that space for anybody else. And the universe is going to continue, especially through your twin flame, to reflect the part of you that is too stubborn, too egoic, and too arrogant to look at your own shit. Like, they're just going to keep reflecting that over and over again until you see. And that's part of that. You get bitter or you get better. Like, you can look at it and go, fuck, I've already improved so many things. I've already worked on my ego. I've already done A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. Why I gotta be the one to apologize again? Why I gotta be the one to be the bigger person? Why I gotta be the one to think about it in a better way? Well, stop that. Like that kind of line of thinking ain't helping you, and it ain't gonna get you anywhere. I mean, you can keep with it if you want. If it's working for you, if you feel good, if you're getting everything you want, stick with it. But if it's not, which I suspect is probably why you're here, then stop that. Like it's like I look at my kids, and it's like there are plenty of times I don't want to have the same conversation about pick something up or do it in a different way. But if I sit there and go, oh, I just can't stand having this conversation. Why won't they listen to me? Why have I had to say it more than once or more than twice or more than 5 times? Then I'm just gonna be a bitchy mom, And I've been that mom in the past a fair amount. My kids will tell you about it. Like there was a day when I was not I was the momster. Like you did not like everybody had a weird step around me because they were worried that just the wrong thing said or done that I would criticize or I would bark or things like that. And now it's much more like, you know what? Every opportunity that I get to have a conversation with my kids, even if it's over the same topic, gives me another opportunity to learn more about them and more about myself. And I like that. And it makes me feel good. And I don't feel resentful of the things that come up in parenting as regular aspect stuff because I have trained myself out of being in that place of being bitter about it, you know? And that's one of the things I can tell you. It's probably been the most hilarious in my twin flame journey, even because I really dove as much as I could into trying to become a better parent, but without trying to force myself to fit into the ideals that so many around me feel like need to be it, like finding the feel of my own parenting, and talking with others and seeing what they like to do and talking with my kids first and foremost about what they like, what works with them, things like that. And it's funny because like it's actually become kind of a source of envy for others around, including my DM's karmic and stuff. And it's like I'm just working on being a better mom myself. And I could be in a space of, in fact, in the beginning, I was very resentful. How are you going to fucking leave me and go out and take care of other people's family? How are you going to do this and that? But now I'm in a place of like, you know what though? I'm really enjoying this time that I've had basically the kids to myself. We've had a lot of fun. They've helped support me in ways that I didn't think would be possible because I didn't want to put, hardly any of this in their vibration at all. Obviously, that, I'm not the only party in it, so that didn't happen. But each opportunity has been an opportunity to look at, okay, what would my parents have said or done? What would their parents have said or done? And how many of the ways that they treated that, did that perpetuate bitterness? Did that perpetuate codependence? Did that perpetuate, feeling powerless and helpless? How many ways can I help them love themselves in each situation so that they don't have to go out into the world and perpetuate the old cycles that people have been stuck in for a long time about feeling very bitter about their situations, which again is understandable. It's understandable considering the way that our media is. It's understandable considering the way that a lot of us were raised. It's understandable, but it just doesn't help. That's why I say if you get triggered by this, good. Think about it. Because if you want to be able to continue telling yourself a story that makes you feel bitter, fine, but like you're going to find that fewer and fewer people want to work with you. You're going to find that fewer and fewer people are going to be on your wavelength other than people who reflect how you are feeling. You're going to feel called and resonated to readings that make you feel more bitter. You're going to keep retelling that story. If you feel good with that, if you feel empowered with that, by all means go with it. But if not, then get triggered and look at things yourself. And I mean, if nothing else, you know, I've seen it in my own story, and I've seen it in so many other stories to where like they'll be saying, oh well, my twin flame is so immature, and they're not learning, and they're doing it this way, and they're hurting people, and they're not changing, and they're not growing, and then I'll see that same story repeated by that same person for months and months and months and months, and it's like, why? Okay, are you not seeing the reflection? If nothing else, the fact that you are stuck on and focused on observing only those parts of the story and you're not even looking for where the growth is, then it makes sense why you're not observing any changes in them either, because you are also not changing. You are also staying stubborn and stuck and focused on things that really are not all that important. And I know that they feel important, and that heck, I still struggle sometimes with that, but it feels so much more important to go back and observe it, though I feel better and far less bitter when I don't go looking to observe the things that make me feel bitter. When I go looking to observe the things that are going well. That's why I started, I'm going to start them back up again too. That's why I started with the zodiac readings, doing the tell me something good readings. You want a reading that's going to tell you something crappy. There are plenty of readers out there who they don't filter, and a lot of them are about all the third party drama and things like that. But I want to be a part of the tribes that perpetuate feeling good. What's good? What's coming along that's good? Not because that we shouldn't ever acknowledge that bad things happen, but simply because when we start getting stuck in telling ourselves those stories over and over again, we keep remanifesting it and we get more and more bitter. And so at this point, like, you have the choice, and you're going to be given the choice over and over again. So if you don't feel like you're ready to let go of the part of your story that's really like, I don't know how to say it, like, there are certain rewards to having a victim story, and a lot of them have to do with like hoping that people will not have such high expectations of us succeeding because we've had it really hard. So if we tell them we've had it really hard, then they're not going to look at us and say, why aren't you doing better in your life? And we're not going to feel ashamed that we're not doing better in our lives. But if you remove the story, why aren't you doing better? If you look back in each part of your story, if nothing else, you continued to put yourself in a situation where people would treat you that way. And yeah, that can be kind of a stingy thing to hear sometimes. But we need to look at that, and look at it not for places to beat ourselves up, but look at it for, oh, you know what? If it was my quote unquote fault that I got treated this way, then it's also within my ability to not get treated that way again. And then to get to a better place rather than a bitter place, you don't go to a place where you're like, I'm never going to be around people again. That's a bitter place, or I'm never going to be in love again, or I'm never going to give this person a chance again, or I'm never going to be myself with somebody again. That's bitter. Better is, you know what? The story may not always have the plot twist that I expect, but a lot of times they're the plot twists that I needed. And I see myself reflected through other people, and I see where I can improve too. I see where something for me that might be very little could be something very big for someone else, just like me looking at something that someone else is doing that for them is very small, but for me is very big. And the real big thing of it is, do you want to walk around in the heaviness just feeling it the whole time, the rest of your life? Has it gotten you where you want to go? Has it gotten you union? Has it gotten you a soulmate you feel good with? Has it gotten you the job that you wanted? Has it gotten you the healed situation with your family that you wanted? Has it helped you become a better parent? Like, if the stories that you're telling aren't if you look around and you're not satisfied with where you are in your life, it starts there. It starts inside. Are you bitter or are you better? And you can choose to be either one, but I can tell you that, if you're feeling triggered by this, then it's because being bitter does not help you feel better.